I think first and foremost, as you see on your screen, that's the lines, the projected lines over a daily face-off. They do a tremendous job. So they got Nyes, Matthews, Marner, McMahon, Tavares, Nylander, Holmberg, Domi, Yarncroke, Dewar, Kampf, and Reeves. And then on the back end, they have Riley, Tanev, Benoit McCabe, and OEL and Liljegren. My lineup's a bit different to start. I've jumbled things up. I think, again, a lot of this is assuming that the youngsters have a pretty decent camp. Like, I'm still in the committee that Easton Cowan's going to get at least a bit of a crack, at least the first couple games to make this team, again, assuming he has a strong camp. So I actually have Easton Cowan on my opening night roster. So my four lines, I have Nyes, Matthews, Marner, Robertson, Tavares, Nylander, Cowan, Domi, Yarncroke, McMahon, Kampf, and Reeves, which would leave Fraser Minton, Pontus Holmberg, and Connor Dewar out. But I do think there's a bunch of expendable players up front right now.
Yeah, I think the theme, if this is what it was come September, I think the theme would be like there is open spots for guys to go and earn. Like it's
Yeah.
not, you look at that and you're moving Holmberg and McMahon and Robertson and Dewar around. Like, hence why I'm kind of thinking it's a little bit lean. Like, you got all those guys on opening night roster. That's not, you're not going to the Eastern Conference Finals with that, and no respect to any of disrespect to any of the guys, but it's too lean, it's too thin, and we've had them all in the lineup, and they all have their times of doing fantastic things and showing up and being effective, but to have that longevity and that serious, ability to lead a line, for example, and do your job like a really strong third line in the NHL that's going deep, making a difference in the playoffs. I'm not seeing it right there. And, this is why we talk about this kind of thing for the people that, are against the fact that we keep repetitively talking about the core four and whatnot. That is what you get when you pay four guys whatever bloody dollar number it is, and it's huge. That's what you get. There's not enough to put that other big name in there. There's just not enough, and you get Holmberg, McMahon, Robertson, Dewar, Camp. Like that's too many. That's too many kind of no-namey guys to go to do something special. Where when you look at the back end, you're like, ooh, that's a nice top pair. Ooh, that's a good little shutdown. Ooh, those are a couple physical puck move. Like everything looks real sweet. And the only thing you could look at is like, is Liljegren, what's he gonna be? How good is he gonna be? He could take a step in either way, but that looks very solid. And the forward group, it looks like Swiss cheese to me. I'm sorry. And then so you could say, well, I mean, honestly, the biggest saving grace looking at the forwards, I could say, is Easton Cowan going to come in and make an impact? And then you go like pull up his DB, and he's like 12 years old, and he's literally 19. And I'm like, a fucking 19-year-old's going to come into the National Hockey League, and I know it happens more often than it used to, but how much faith you put in the guy and how much expectations do you put on a young mind? And could you like bury him or ruin a year of him by having him stutter step and then having the market kind of turn on him, and then all of a sudden he's doing the Nick Robertson thing, right? Like, you don't want to see that. So it's interesting to see, and I really hope, like what you said to start this thing, they're not done, and this isn't the final product up front.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of internal competition again, assuming everything stays the same. You mentioned Robertson, Cowan, Minton, Holmberg, Dewar, guys like that are going to be fighting effectively for like two roster spots. But I do like the idea of somebody earning their keep in their position with the team. Having said that, I think there's actually going to be a couple guys that hit waivers. But you're right, like I think they lack depth up the middle first and foremost. Like in an ideal world, I don't want to see Max Domi centering the third line. I think he's more effective maybe on the wing with Austin Matthews in the top six. There's a lot of responsibilities towards like a Matthew Nyes this season, especially losing Tyler Bertuzzi. They don't really have the depth. And if you want to play Domi up the middle, the left side doesn't look like particularly strong. That's why I think a guy like Easton Cowan can crack this roster. But yeah, there's a lot more question marks, but effectively what they did is reallocate that money from up front to the back end. And that's why there's a bit of a hole up front now, Rosie.
Yeah, and it shows. It looks like we said. I don't see the quality up the front end there, and it's guys are going to come into camp, and if it stays like this, they're going to be licking their chops, saying there is room for me, there is spot open. The brass is going to be doing the whole thing in training camp. Hey, somebody make it hard on us. Someone make force our hand, and everyone's going to be going for those spots. But if you're trying to say, we're ready to win a Stanley Cup, that's not really the theme in training camp. That theme would be, here's the big boys. Let's see how well we can get them to cook together. Not saying oh, Nick Robertson, let's see if you can go. Connor Dewar, like all these Holmberg and McMahon. Like, sorry, those guys aren't getting you to that promised land, and there's too many of those guys right now. And again, that's why we've been preaching it. Like, too many. It's too lean. It's too thin. I love the way they've shored up the back end. I really do. I'm excited to watch that. But up front, a lot of holes. And if you think like Easton Cowan, if you're putting your faith in a 19-year-old to come and really solidify things, I mean, that's a scary prospect. So as good as that player is, and as much as he can come in and maybe make an impact, I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying that's a tough spot to be in up front, and I hope there's more changes to come.
Always careful to compare and contrast, but certainly the staple marks and the earmarks of the teams in St. Louis with Craig Berube there was depth, and that's why I think he's going to mix and match or try his best is adding depth up and down the lineup, which includes the fourth line, the third line. If you recall when they won the Cup, I think Alex Steen was on the fourth line. When you're coming in waves, and Rosie, we talk about that a lot. When you're coming in waves like that up front, you are tough to beat. And I think I look at this Maple Leafs roster right now, especially up front. I think it's incomplete, and I can't say they're going to come at you in waves. Like I think there's a legitimate and obviously a big drop off from say like line 1 to line 4. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all, and don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.